Hello, welcome to my channel, thanks for stopping by. Hope your day is going great. So we've got another discussion video, and this one is how to redesign Gateway, how to make it better, how to actually explore different biomes instead of just a jungle themed map, make it diverse and make it actually work better for the playables that we will have and do have. I'm going to give my ideas here with some images that I found to kind of help with your imagination to show you kind of what I mean. And if you have any other ideas, comment them down below. Maybe there's something that I'm saying that you would think would work better, or maybe even a biome that I've missed out. I really want to explore the fact of a Gateway 2.0, let's say, and I know this is fantasy, of course. This isn't something that's gonna happen most likely. It's fun to talk about these things and an alternate universe, let's say, where maybe Gateway is even better and not just a jungle themed map where it kind of looks the same a little bit everywhere. I'm really going to utilize different types of biomes, temperatures, events, and yeah, make it more fun. Anyway, let's get into it. We'll start with the north. We already have a volcano type mountain there, so let's actually make it alive. It doesn't have to be active over time or even destructive, even though that would be cool. But just the feel of danger where the closer you get to lava, the more stamina you could lose due to the heat. PT would love it, for example, to be above the area for hot air to help it regen quicker and push further into the map. You could have a few lava rivers with some burnt trees here and there, and it could slowly transition into life, which I think is cool as volcanoes pretty much take life and give life. So you could see how it's a bit hot and gloomy, with then downstream life slowly takes its vibrance back. And before we come to the center, we could add some long river systems either side of the map that will connect the bottom of the map, which we will get to later. Now we'll get to the north at the end of the video. It will make sense as it comes together. This is kind of like a piece that we're putting together. So don't worry, I'm not leaving the north with just a barren wasteland, let's say. So, on the left side of the map, it can slowly become a jungle-themed area, as it kind of is already, with river systems overlapping. On the right, it could be grasslands, more flat type area, which mostly sauropods would claim as theirs, and herds of nesting herbivores. This would still include tall trees scattered around, with a few mini forests for predators to help camouflage in. Then we have center, which would start to shape a different environment. Desert in the middle with caves that have a sanctuary type area below, with water and perhaps a canyon in the center of the desert, and more to the south of the canyon a massive waterfall that feeds a small river in the canyon. At the top of that waterfall you'll see the start of swamps. This is the middle south star area, and this would be the biggest river and lake system that will go to the bottom of the map, rivers coming together to create lakes and swampy marshlands. Now for the bottom right edge of swamps, redwood forest to transition from the swampy jungles, and the redwood forest would be nicely spread out with giant beautiful redwood trees. This is so any size playable can traverse this area, as it will connect to the top right of the open plains area. The theme of this area will be pretty and spacious. Little rivers running through, perhaps a few ponds, and it will increase in rivers the closer you get to swamps. And one river that doesn't cut off, a continuous river from the right flat plains through the redwoods to the swamps. This is important as it makes dino and other semi-aquatics have a good life again, one that is fair to them and strikes fear into the others drinking, but not just an easy way for semi-aquatics to live either. Then on the bottom left, transitioning from the swamps, we could have high peaks, a few mountains that the peaks could have snow, and perhaps a cave or two. You can go in and then go down far into the mountains, so the mountain itself would be like two places in one area, helping save space on the map. And I think caves are generally something that should be scattered around the map as well. They don't necessarily have to all connect or anything, but I think that'll be great. And further down you go, the warmer it gets, with some lava at the bottom where the cannibals could even spawn from and do some rituals perhaps. Just a spicy idea. This again would play on temperature of playables, so not all would want to enter. Some would thrive in these areas and some would rather not go. The rivers would go around the mountain and one would go inside. A cave type system, let's say, where it's dark but perhaps a human bunker for humans to enter. A dangerous path for them, but safety at the end. This brings me to human structures. This is not to say make human gameplay a strong point. Could just be more mysterious look to the map, or it could be utilized and make human gameplay fun, but not the main point of the game either. Each biome will have some human structures. Some on the top, the snowy mountain peaks like James Bond style, let's say, cliff bases with helipads, to the swamps being too dangerous for humans due to the amount of resources there for playables, so they would only be able to sneak around and take pictures, samples and back to their labs for investigation. The canyon would be more suitable to tribal type humans and cannibals, with the caves which they would often fight for with dinos for safety. The sides will have a few small buildings here and there, and finally back to the north where we started would have a laboratory facility to research vocal sciences, with a radio tower that would have to be activated so humans can work together, with communication in the south which would have another radio tower on the peak of a mountain. Now even if some servers wouldn't have humans enabled, these structures would add more intrigue than waste of space, let's say, and if enabled it would be a whole new world that doesn't hurt the ecosystem. Furthermore, I feel humans should be separate slots on any server to help add to the population and not take from it as well. And finally, weather should be down to the areas and not the same all over the map. The swamps to the south would be more wet, with raining more, with intense storms at times. The plains would receive some light showers and at times some mid-level rainstorms, but nothing crazy. The mountains on the bottom left would receive clear skies, at times heavy thunderous events that would be attached to humans or just a cycle. With humans it could indicate that they have managed to establish communication with the north, as both areas could have terrible weather with thunder and heavy winds. The jungle areas on the left side of the map could be calmer, being shielded with a dense jungle, perhaps some foggy atmosphere instead and some light rain here and there. And the center would experience dry seasons where the rivers could become more shallow at times, pushing exploration for life. And the north, being the hot area that it is with the volcano there, we could even spawn in some tornadoes. And with the intense heat, if combined with wind, this would be rare, but let's say it happens, that the two things happen at the same time, high winds as well as the heat. With the tornadoes, it could create some fire tornadoes, or where they blast fire around, spreading fire around, maybe to some forests, pretty much charring the land, making it a spot that you kind of want to get away from. And you might be thinking, well, what's the point in spawning in the north as it sounds deadly, especially comparing to everything else? Well, whilst the weather is calm, apart from the lava rivers, the area would be a hotspot for nesting, making it quicker and more likely to have babies and plenty of diets all around, predators and herbivores, including AI for predators, as well as of course the herbivores that will want to come here for a good life before it gets wild. This would be the same for the south, but the south would be a safer alternative for the most part. This would give us two main spots for nesting and migration. With a path you take, the left, the right or center is up to you, with mini patrol zones type migrations happening all over the map depending on your species. And I will add one more thing, migration in this case is a better choice for food, but there will always be herby food even if you don't go to migration, but a lot less if you are in a herd. So yes, if you are in a herd, the migration is better choice. This way you're not forced completely into following migration, but you can make the choice that works for you, which ultimately is exploration with diverse risks, but high risk if enough herbies decide to not migrate, as food will become scarce until it comes back. Now I don't think anything I'm saying here is out of the skill set of the IO devs, and I understand this is fantasy, but I would love to see something like this implemented, as I believe it would be more interesting. So to sum it all up, the north will be full of resources, but sometimes will get taken over by weather, which will make everyone have to flee, because it will be death. Center will be more dry, so you would remove highlands, let's say. Be a lot more dry. Could have some peaks, you would have the canyon, so it will be a multi-level area. So you got the big giant canyons, kind of like the Great Canyon in America, right? Something like that. Where you can be on the very top peaks there, scouting for prey down at the bottom. A nice little river system going through it that kind of comes from the north, which will have its own pond, let's say, as well. Coming down, you'd have the big giant swamps like you kind of already do, and more dense jungles and forests. On the left, it will be more of the jungle theme as what the map actually has, so not to take away completely from this, but it'll be more misty. And then on the right side, you'd have more open plains, where usually the very big sauropods and ceratopsians would thrive in. So you'd have a lot of cool battles there, a lot of nesting, gathering together, big predators also hunting there too, with some jungles to kind of help you ambush. And then on the bottom left, you'd have the mountainous regions. Now the map is big as it is, so I know a lot of this sounds a bit like even crampy, but you gotta imagine there'll be a lot more free space in between these areas too, where the transitions actually happen. And on the mountainous areas, of course, there won't be too much life there, there won't be even too much AI, you kind of have to go around the mountain or inside the mountain with the cave systems. Kind of the same as center, there'll be some life there, they'll be more well suited. One thing that I forgot to mention actually, same as weather would be in different places, I also feel like AI should be different in different places that suit the area a bit more. That's with dinosaur AI and also not dinosaur AI. Even down to different types of fish I think would be pretty cool. Yes, there can be some kind of common AI that you find everywhere, but I think there should also be one or two AIs that are specifically only in a spot, which further would help predators choose whether they should follow migration to hunt playables, or should I say people that play dinosaurs, or they can just choose a route of a bit more of a calmer gameplay, because not everyone wants to always hunt players. Sometimes they just want to be themselves, right? And they can just have that choice by hunting the correct AI that'll kind of move around the map. Then of course finally on the bottom right you would have a giant forest, the redwood forest, which is something that I think most people want in the game. I do understand this is meant to be in one of the biomes eventually, but I personally don't like the idea of a biome having a forest in it. To me it feels just kind of not claustrophobic, but it's just too fake, right? I like to look up into the sky and be like, wow, I'm in an actual forest, not something that's clearly going to be man-made in there. But who knows, maybe it'll be cool, but I just prefer it to be more natural. And that forest as well will be the most beautiful part of the map. At least in my opinion, that's how I would make it. And the great thing about redwood forest is that there's plenty trees, giant trees, but the space is always quite wide, so pretty much anything can get through. Now of course, some of you might even say, well, won't you be limiting a lot of big predators or even let's say sauropods to just plains or maybe the north where it's a bit more barren, you know, or the redwood forest is kind of like the whole right side of the map, like top and right and bottom right is pretty much for them. If you want to add realism to the game, not every dino can go everywhere. Same with the caves, you're not going to see, maybe not every cave would be accessible for even big predators like Rex. It'll be maybe some that's more for mid tiers or small tiers. Some caves will be bigger in some areas. Now I'm not saying that sauropods, for example, can go to the dense jungles of the swampy south. There will be some areas that they can obviously traverse too. There'll be areas all over the map where they'll be able to traverse. There will just be some parts that they can't get to. Not to mention that the devs have spoken about trees being able to be knocked over by even Rex and sauropods and stuff like that, so that could also be implemented as well. I think this is a good balance of open spaces to slightly dense spaces to very dense spaces, and actually utilizing the map as a completely different ecosystem. I mean, we haven't even got to the islands yet. You got the islands on the side as well, like this big one here, for example. This one could be completely different. I mean, if you had control over this island, what would you put there? I think it would make more sense if that was one biome though. But this one could be a more of a tropical side of the island. Maybe you would have a lot of resources there. It could even be the area, and I think I've spoken about this before actually. In Gateway even came out and we saw the map of it, and we're kind of talking about what that island's going to be, and I think I did speak about it could be a place that has the most resources, but obviously you have that part where you got to travel, where it's kind of probably going to be a land bridge. And I think again, tied into weather, it could be something like tides where the land bridge will always be there, like it will always be a shallow part that you can walk on if the water does come up. Maybe some parts of it will be a little bit deeper, you'd have to swim, but when the tide is low you can actually walk across it. But then marine life would be really cool to add around this area, so they'll be patrolling this area, so semi-aquatics that swim across could be in danger. You could be stopped from going unless you want to risk it. And if you finally get there and you're alive, you've got a beautiful tropical island full of resources that could have its own migration system or patrol zones. And there of course you could have stuff like tornadoes as well, or heavy rain with winds. But yeah, that's my idea. I know this is a bit of a different video. Usually I talk about stuff that's a bit more realistic, like okay, let's talk about this dino, or let's talk about these mechanics, or what's coming up. So I know this is quite different, but I just thought, why not? I've always fantasized over Gateway in a way that we can make it better, and I've always liked speaking about it, and I thought, why not? Let's finally do it. And here we are. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down below, of course, your ideas, if there's maybe some things that could work better. And yeah, apart from that, have a great day and peace.